Scott rolling in with head men's basketball coach Josh Schertz for our weekly report. Coach, as always, got a lot to talk about. Let's first look back to last week. 2 wins, again improved to 10-0 in conference play. An 85-72 win over Anderson here at Texas Turner, and an 82-64 win at Catawba. To me, the storyline was kind of similar in both games. A long run to end the first half that really kind of gave you that separation, and then some pretty good defensive efforts, especially at times in the Catawba game. So obviously talk about both those wins and to be at this point 10-0 in conference play.
Well, I think obviously anytime you win in this league, it's good. It's tough to do, and you got to do a lot of good things to get victories. Obviously Anderson at home was one where we got off. I thought pretty sluggishly out of the gates. Both teams really struggled early. I think the game was scoreless the first 3 minutes. It was 28-24. We were down with about 5 minutes to go in the first half, and then we were able to go on an 18-0 run, made some shots. We were able to get some stops and string some stops together. You got to credit them. I thought they made some tough shots. Randall Shaw really got going. He was finished the night with 27 and really early strung together 3 or 4 threes in a row right there. We did enough good things. Second half came out, and I thought the lead kind of, the second half was just pretty well evenly played. I think we were up 17 at half, and something like that, maybe 16, 17 at half, and we kind of stayed between 18 and 9. I think they cut it to 9 there with about 2 minutes to go, and then we made some plays down the stretch to kind of close the thing out and finish with whatever it was, a 13-point victory. So, again, you got to do some good things to win. Certainly, I think, the Catawba game, as you mentioned, was similar in some ways. I think, defensively, the first 12, 13 minutes, I thought we were really good. And then I thought, I told the guys at halftime we were up, 39-22, and the last about 7 minutes of the first half, I thought, we went from, really guarding them well and kind of helping them miss shots to them just missing shots. They got some wide open looks that went 3/4 of the way down, hit the back iron, and I just told them, I said, we don't start guarding better. Those shots, they're going to start making in the second half. And to their credit, they came out and really, took it to us early in the second half. We had to burn through a timeout early. Again, cut it down to 9 or 10, and then we kind of stiffened our resolve, and we were able to make some shots. Thought the defense picked back up. We still have too many lapses where we don't execute defense. We got to get sharper in our defensive execution. Still way too many times that we have breakdowns, on the ball, off the ball, in transition, just things that, we have to improve upon if we're going to become a really good team. You can't have those breakdowns and beat elite teams. So, I think a lot of things to work on, but certainly some good things to build on, because obviously you come away with a 13-point win at home against a good Anderson team, and you go on the road and play a Catawba team that, was 5-4 in the league, and I think Rob's got a really nice team with some really good personnel, and get an 18-point win on the road.
Well, in those first half runs in particular, seem kind of symbolic of what the team's been about this year. It always feels like there's one coming in the first half, outscoring opponents by almost 240 points cumulative in the first half. It's much closer in the second half, though, and we talked about this a lot earlier in the year. What has kind of been the difference, the more you look at it, in terms of what can you account for the separation in the first half, and then the second half, maybe some of that, a little bit of that letdown?
Well, I think there's probably 2 factors. I think one, is we probably, I think most of the time at halftime have had a pretty significant lead, and so I think that's played into 2 things. I think one, offensively, the opponent kind of loosens up a little bit, and you're down 15, 20 points, it's a little bit easier to play and make shots, because you're just a little bit looser. And probably the second part of that is, what I think is probably the bigger culprit is probably a lack of maturity on our guys' part to come out and to try to, not look at the scoreboard, not be base our effort on the scoreboard and really focus in on what we need to do to play well and try to build on that and sustain our play over a 40-minute window. And there's been a few times here and there we have, but for the most part it's kind of been, what it's been, and that's usually we fortunately have had big leads going into halftime. Unfortunately, we usually come out, soft and lethargic. to start the second half, and the other team whittles it down from 15, 17 to 8, 9, 10, and then we kind of realize we got to start playing, and then we able to kind of from an execution standpoint start back to what we do, and we've been able to kind of get the job done. But again, as the year goes on, obviously some teams improve, some teams don't, but the good teams improve. And what was good enough to get the job done, in November, December, and even up to this point in January, won't be good enough to get the job done, end of January, February, certainly into March, because those teams are going to improve. So, that's an area, again, we can get better offensively as well, but, defensively and being more sound, again, sharper execution, more connected, more together on the defense of the ball is an area that has to grow, and it starts with sustaining our intensity over a 40-minute window and not letting that kind of wane. Usually when our intensity goes, it's on the defensive end that you see the biggest drop. On the offensive end, sometimes the ball sticks, but primarily when we let go of the rope, it's on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, now let's look forward to Thursday, playing on Thursday instead of Wednesday for the My VLT broadcast that'll be in here at Tex Turner Arena. Tusculum, obviously, looking at them, they started 6-2, a really nice start for them. Now they've lost 6 of their last 7, and been a brutal stretch in terms of who they've had to play over that stretch. But we know that Tusculum has one of the best inside-out duos in the conference, in Darius Carter and Chase Mounts. You're looking for your 16th straight win over the Pioneers, so obviously they're hungry for that victory. So tell me about that challenge with the Pioneers.
Well, I think it's a unique challenge playing on a Thursday. Obviously it's a great opportunity for the school and the program to be on regional television. It was something when Matt and I sat down and discussed it, he kind of left it in my corner to make the decision. And we thought the pros of playing on TV outweigh the negatives of losing a day or throwing us off rhythm. And so it's it's unique in that regard. Our preparation this week will be a little bit different, but in terms of Tusculum themselves, I think present a lot of challenges. Everybody really in this league is going to go through their ups and downs over the course of a season. Tusculum's did something we didn't do, and that's beat King. They certainly have had some high points during the year. They've beaten some regionally ranked teams. Newberry, who's in the poll, and King, and they've had some good wins, and they have good players. You look at it, as you mentioned, Chase Mounts inside, is certainly on the very short list of elite bigs, in this conference in the region. He's terrific. Darius Carter was their leading scorer as a junior. He's back, leading them in scoring again now as a fifth-year senior. Mike's teams always play hard, or always well coached. They do good things offensively. They present a lot of different challenges for us. They shoot the ball. They're unique in the sense that they've had 6 or 7 guys that have gotten 20 points in a game this year. 6 or 7 different guys. They don't have anybody averaging 20, but they got a lot of guys that can get 20. And you get those guys going on the same night, and you're in for a difficult ride. And then they just have good depth on the perimeter. Patterson's a good player. Obviously, Carter's a good player. Fagan, Zach Davis, and then obviously inside with Schoen and Mounts, and they come off the bench, John Price, and it goes on and on. So, we'll have to play well. There again, everybody in the league goes through ups and downs. It doesn't take much to tip the scale one way or the other. They're certainly very capable, as they showed by knocking off King, knocking off Newberry, and beating some good teams. And they'll come in, and we expect them to be at our best, and we'll have to be at our best. So that's we always expect teams to come in and be at their best when they come play us, and we'll have to again kind of match that.
Well, and then obviously part of the challenge of the week is, like you had already said, pushing it back a day. That cuts out a day of rest for Saturday's game, which you make your longest road trip of the season, the Southland Conference schedule, 350-mile trek to Hartsville to play the Cobras of Coker College. Already played them once. We're wrapping up that series. Beat them 72-58 here back on December 5th. So obviously that is going to be a part of the challenge for your team this week.
Yeah, it's obviously a very short turnaround for an extremely long trip. Seems like 3,500 miles, not 350 miles when you make that trek to Hartsville. But, we'll have to, again, kind of do some unique things in before Thursday to kind of be ready. And then, try to work on a travel schedule that gets our guys to Saturday afternoon, with some rest and obviously some fresh legs. So we'll work on that and kind of put the details together there. But I think the first game with them, you can, obviously you watched it, you remember it, and but you can throw it out the window because Dante Samuels didn't play, and he's obviously their best player, and they have other good players. Trey Marshall's good, Aubrey Daniels. They've got the Watson kid inside, and they've got a lot of different pieces on the perimeter. Barnett killed us here. He was really got going for them in the second half, and we were coming off the 4 overtime game at Lenoir Ryan. That was a game I think Dorian and Jarrell may have combined for 6 points or something against Coker, and a part of that was they did a good job on those two guys. Part of that was those two guys were delirious, so it was a combination. But Hunter Spall was outstanding in that game. Came off the bench, gave us 11 points the first half, kind of carried the way. Lou was terrific, and so when you watch that game, you kind of throw that out the window because of Dante Samuel's absence. Certainly you get an idea of how they guarded stuff and what some things we did. But as you watch them here the last couple games, playing much better. Obviously have one of the elite players in our league, and Dante Samuels can hurt you from the inside, hurt you from the outside, handles the ball, is a guy that's averaging 17 points a game, and that's with a few games kind of coming back from injuries, averaging 19 a game before he got hurt. So he's a guy very capable of averaging 20 and 7, 20 and 8, and is really a unique matchup at the forward position. So the one thing with Coach Monster's teams, you always know is they're going to be extremely fundamentally sound, incredibly tough. They're, I think, the best offensive rebounding team in the country, at least statistically. So they're unbelievable on the backboards. Their offense kind of starts on a missed shot. They just are relentless on the glass. So it's a game where it's extremely physical, and you got to have great energy. And coming off it being our second game in about 36 hours, we're going to have to find a way to match their energy, match their intensity. And being there last year, they had an unbelievable atmosphere with the snake pit, the new arena. The students are basically sitting on the bench with you, so it's a unique deal, a unique environment, and we'll have to be ready for all that and go out again and perform at an extremely high level to be competitive.